Hey, welcome to Mornings with the Focus. I'm back with Justin Walters. I'm Wilson Tarpey Jr. Look, Justin got some more topics, so we're gonna get to them. In case it's your first time tuning in, just remind how things go. Obviously, Justin and I will have a conversation. You are more than encouraged to join said conversation. Hit the comment section. We've had some folks on the regular that do a great job of that. I know Sid. I would take a guess to say Sid will probably stop by at some point. Hit the comment section. We've had some other folks in the past do the same. But again, if you guys want to throw in a name, you guys want to take the conversation elsewhere, use the comment section. It's really that easy. All right, Justin, I think one of the topics you had, which is kind of went into the name of today's episode, and it's oh so very funny. Do winning quarterbacks got to have elite tools?
It's one of them things, man, that, just like we talked about the running backs yesterday, is we group everything into one thing. So every quarterback has to be Josh Allen. Every quarterback has to be Patrick Mahomes. And that's the only way you can win, which isn't really true. And then I think where it even comes even more to play is if you don't have a big arm, you can't throw a deep ball. And we've been hearing that a lot recently. When Joe Burrow throws a ton of deep ball, he doesn't have a great arm. Or, he has a slightly above average arm. And then they're saying Tua's going to struggle with Tyreek Hill because he doesn't have a great arm. But it's not really how it works. The game, there's tons of big arm guys that have failed in the past and, failed now. So I think it's just one of those things that we want to know if it's a myth. I mean, having elite tools obviously is a bailout early, for certain guys. Like, even when you talk about the Justin Herbert versus Tua versus Joe Burrow or whatever, certain guys like that, it's like, having certain tools allows you to be late on throws, or, allows you to escape pressure and run and create your own thing sometimes when you don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean? I think, and that's one of those things that people don't really, nowadays we don't develop guys. So you don't give a guy who may have lesser tools 3 to 5 years, or they don't end up with the right staff who actually is going to take care of them. We've watched certain teams go to the NFC Championship game or go to certain levels because of good coaching and the guy just doing his job. But the anticipation plays a major part in it. There's a lot of things that go on the quarterback thing that, we don't, that people, don't flash. And I think that's the thing that I think is overlooked with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of the second part of the answer would be, I guess when he's I do think you have to be elite at something. It doesn't have to be physical,
right?
But I need you to be elite at something. It could be something as simple as, even if it's a release, give me something to work around that gives you a decided advantage, right? And then the other part of that is that there's not one way to do that job. You see it happen in basketball where people like, oh, so-and-so is a point, they play point guard, but they're not a point guard. Look, man, your job is to do what your team needs in both cases, whether you're a point guard or a quarterback. Both of those positions, all folks aren't great natural distributors. Everyone doesn't have, everyone's not going to have the great, exceptional timing and knowing exactly where to put the ball in both cases. Quarterbacks, and again, your job is to win. And I think a lot of people get hung up on how people win versus do they win. And that's all I truly care about. If you win a lot and you're the reason for it, there's something elite along that process. If you win a lot and you're not along for the ride, but you're the trailer, like it's the people you're throwing to sometimes, the scheme or something like that, I'm not going to get mad at you for maximizing yourself in those situations, but they shouldn't be confused with the other.
Right.
And then at the same time, like you said, and I think that's where not everybody, but a lot of people get it messed up, is that everyone thinks everything elite has to be physical.
Right.
And that's where people get in trouble with big arm. That's cool, but if they can't read a field or have no sense of, can't throw with anticipation or any of those things, what are we doing here? Then you can have the guys without the big arms that will slice your defense up because of the non-physical stuff. They're ahead of you. You know, they just don't get in situations. But I do think you need to be a lead at something. I would just say that sometimes it could be the mental side of it. And I think all too often we all just focus on physical.
Yeah, I think like the thing that's overlooked honestly is, you know, like you're talking about the processing, decisiveness. Is something that sounds stupid, but like a guy like Joe Burrow, he knows where he's going. That's it. You know what I mean? That has that slight hesitancy that makes up for the lack of arms, you know, of the killer arm. But it's that confidence, that lack of fear. Like I think those things are, you know, you can be like there's some guys who haven't had great arms, but they believe they do. You know, the confidence they play with is huge, and your teammates believe in you. And you know, again, like you said, it's each team requires a different skill set. So if my job is just to, like now this year for Miami to win, Tua doesn't have to be Josh Allen. Just get it out of your hands. You know, and the coverages are going to be obvious. How they try to take somebody away, and if they try to press them, then you go over the top. And that doesn't require a great arm to just let the ball go. You know, if they give them cushion, which they probably will, take the quick game. If they're doubling Tyreek, you go to Waddle. If they're doubling both of them, you go down the middle to the second. Like, it just requires knowing your offense and running it. It's not so much in this. Like the big arm things and the great athlete things, they pop up. You know, there's a time when your left guard blows his assignment. You know what I mean? And the guy's on you. Now, what do you do there? You know, if you're the average guy, maybe you just throw the ball away. You know, or maybe you can get to a check down. But the special guys can shake that guy off and run around and make a 70-yard throw. But then there's some of those physically talented guys that'll shake that guy off and lob it down the middle, get intercepted. You know what I mean? So there's more to it than just those physical tools.
Man, I think that's also sometimes why we see sometimes like the masses get in trouble with quarterback evaluations because people get to doing too much based just not looking at the whole picture, right? And I hate to keep bringing up last year's class just because it's fresh in my mind, but for the most part, people went and got like kind of threw half the class out based on nothing, ideally. And it just didn't really make sense. Then come to find out on the other side, the three that fared well, regardless of their situations, were the guys that were kind of further along on the mental side. Based on, you know, just what they were prepped with, experiences, what have you. And this is not to say that the other guys are bad mentally. It's just so about what you came out the gate with in terms of what you've been exposed to, how well prepared you were from college. You know, college systems are not NFL systems. Some people have had the luxury of playing in multiple different systems by the time they hit the NFL. So again, it's not on the players. I'm just talking about the general kind of disgusting discourse that happens year after year, depending on the prospect, what they look like, what they've been through, etc. And it just doesn't make any sense, right? I definitely remember last year where, like, what was it, like midway through last year, nobody really messed with Mac, and then by the time we got to post college and, you know, that other side of it was McCorkle.
Right.
And it was like, but okay, so now y'all recognize what made him good, but he had those things, like those things were apparent the entire time. So like that's kind of how he won. So I didn't really understand it, and like that's the weird thing. Him and Tua pretty much played in similar offenses, similar pieces, and you would look at both of those guys and be like, neither one of you have quote unquote plus arms. But we watched you in college, both of you, air that thing out on a regular basis to dudes who are still considered fast in the NFL.
Right.
So it doesn't add up, right? It just doesn't truly really add up. Then you got guys like Trevor, Justin, and Zach, where physically I don't think anybody has an issue with any of them. But, you know, out of those three, there's only one of them where people are kind of like, oh, well, the mental side, and they're like eerily similar in the fact that all of them physically are exceptional, have something that jumps out the page physically. Yet think Justin's the one out of the three of them that doesn't want to move as much, but is perceived as the mover. Like, it's just so weird. And this is not a knock on Trevor or Zach, what have you. I just remember the discourse last year and it didn't make sense. I know you and I were talking quite a bit, and we just thought it was a good class. Like, it was, for the most part, it was a good class. Like, the six of them, it was a good class. People, I don't care where people rank them. That's personal preference. I have no issue with that. But it was just a good class. And then you fast forward to this year, and it's like you see the difference between how people talked about last year's class and this one, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Also, I think the thing about last year's class was like there was more development involved than people wanted to admit early on. I think, so, we saw how it played out. Where again, Matt wasn't going to wow you. Davis Mills didn't wow you, but they just kept when they finally got in the rhythm, they just played good football. And
Yep.
They're never going to be the greatest athlete, greatest arm guy. But again, I think they took that start because they went to a team and they just ran the offense. Didn't try to do too much and took the check down, hit the open guy. Whereas people didn't accept that. Lawrence, they made Lawrence this all-world prospect, but there was a lot of development that needs to be made. Fields had some things he needed to improve on, more so just maybe quickening up, being quicker with some of his reads and getting the ball out of his hand quicker. But then the offense didn't help him either. And then Zach Wilson was far behind. Like, reality was he was at a school where they were just way better. Like, as much as we say, Alabama's at least playing against SEC schools, or Clemson's playing against ACC schools, or they made the playoff every year. Whereas like Zach Wilson was on a team where his team was better. The linemen were way bigger. They could run it, they could pass, they could do anything. So it was a lot of like look around, look, nothing there, run around, make plays, and we were impressed by his arm talent. The throws he made were impressive, but it's a different level now. And now one of his issues seems to be he looks at the rush, like he sees the rush, which you can't do as a pro. That'll end your career quicker than anything. So especially when you're playing an offense that's where you got to get the ball out and quick. You're looking at pass rush. By the time you get your head around, he's not in that window no more. And now that scrambling around, you're not the athlete. You're not the best athlete on the field. Not even probably the top 22, 24. Like that's the difference here. Running around is just a loss of yards. Or an injury. So I think that's the thing he's going to have to adjust to. And again, he has the physical talent, but can he make those adjustments? Do they adjust the offense to him, which is hard. So I think that's going to be separate from all three of them. Have the talent, you know what I mean? And then just seeing what those other guys have done with way less talent, tells you it's possible, and that also tells you that those physical tools only mean so much.
Yeah, for sure, wholeheartedly agree. And again, it's not that it's revisionist history or anything. It's just, man, even when you're looking at them, I don't care about the numbers in college so much as look at their process, look at how they go about their business. That crap is as boring as some people want to make it seem. It matters. It truly matters. No one took a second look at what Davis Mills' numbers were in Stanford. At all. I do know that he was put in probably the most jacked up situation out of all of them and did not look the most jacked up at all. Like, there's an argument can be made. He was the only one of them dudes where when his team won was because of his play. It's not a knock on them. Just talk about how he was in the worst situation out of all of them. And we know Justin's situation was bad. Still better than what's going on in Houston. What was going on in Houston last year. So again, their process. Watch everybody go crazy with the trace stuff. Oh, the number of throws, the type of offense. Meanwhile, if you probably took 2 seconds, looked at the process of the benefits of playing in that type of an offense, there was stuff that he had to do every day that benefits him on this level. I put him a little bit further ahead than people thought. And like you said, the other guys, again, physically, oh man, they're all plus guys on different parts of the scale. Clearly, like Justin's a metahuman, Trevor's not that far behind, and Zach is dumb talented. He's just not as. I don't think he is nearly as explosive the athletes those other two are. Right? I think there's anything wrong with saying that, but process-wise, all of them have to speed up their process a little bit and get used to how the games move, like the way that they all go about it. And I'd probably put Zach at the back of that group. they just gotta they have to go through they have to go through all this stuff a little bit quicker, and I think maybe their stops in college didn't fully help them with that. So there's a little bit more ground to make up. So you add that on to the fact that it's already the NFL, man. You coming from college to the NFL, like you're already swimming, and then your preparation wasn't the greatest, and not because of you, just college coaches have to win, right? You're gonna run their stuff. It's not really always about, hey, this is so you can get better later, and if we lose, it's not a big deal. No, it doesn't work like that.
Right? Yeah, no, like you're saying, every one of those guys except for Mills came from a winning program where they were the better team 90% of the time. He's Mills is the only one, and obviously that's probably played a part in why he was a third round pick because he didn't get this. The game wasn't easy for him. The other guys, it was not so much Fields, but the other two was more one read and go. Hey, ball, this guy's open, go there, focus. You got the arm strength. If he's not open over the top, to the back shoulder, like it was easier because it was one read and go. Mac had a little bit of reading, some who else? And like I said in him, and Lance's offense was different than the other three. But again, he played his team. Also, his team was using a better team. Also, you know what I mean? Where you've seen Mills struggle, getting beat up, and their offense wasn't a high flying offense, regardless. So seeing a guy go 4-8 or something, it's hard to say, hey, this guy's going to be a good pro. Despite what he was thought of coming out of high school. So I think that played a part. So with him, it wasn't. He was used to having to get out of his hand because his teammates weren't as good, and the separation wasn't as good in college. So having the Texans receivers wasn't as big of a deal of knowing I got to be on point with my passes. I'm going to get hit. I got to bounce back from this and that. Where some of these other guys might have won a full game without getting hit. The first time they really faced adversity was when they made the playoff or in the conference championship game. You know what I mean? It builds that kind of a false sense of like the game becomes easy, and you get to pros and your number one doesn't always win. Your number, whoever the design target the offense isn't simplified where they might give you a play and you can just pick the one route you want to go to because it's going to be, you could have, the Alabama here, if it was man coverage, you can go to Devontae or Waddle anytime you wanted to. Now you're here and it's not the same. You got guys that get paid on the other side too. They're pros. So.
Nah, you're right. All right. I think that kind of puts a bow on that topic. All right, Super Bowl hangovers. I know it's something that you brought up. So, of the two teams, who do you feel is going to have a hangover?
There's a path for both to fail to struggle this year. And if I had put money on it, I'd say the Bengals, just because there was a lot of things that broke for them that no one talks about. Where do they win the division if Lamar doesn't get hurt? If Pittsburgh's quarterback plays just a little bit better, how much better is Pittsburgh? Because Pittsburgh made the playoffs last year with the worst quarterback situation maybe I've seen ever. And that's a solid roster there. If the Browns get their quarterback situation, if he's allowed to, how's that work out? And then moving forward to the AFC's loaded. AFC West has 4 teams that could all make the playoffs. They don't even, and all 4 could win the division too. You have that. You have the East. If Miami and the Patriots, Patriots made the playoffs last year. If Mac is as good, made as big a jump as people are saying, in training camp, if Miami is really improved, the defense has already been good, and they've added weapons on offense. Not to mention what Buffalo is. Then you have the South is, you have the Colts who are always tough to play because they're running game, and he added a competent quarterback play. The Titans are always tough. So like the road to the Super Bowl is really going to be hard. But again, just to get in the playoffs, you might have to win the division. And the Ravens are always rosters loaded, and Lamar's a super weapon, regardless of what people think of other things. And in that division, I just think it's going to be tough. And defensively, everyone takes step back, step forward, and they're not dominant. They don't have a dominant pass rush. Trey Hendrickson had a really good season. What's going on with Bates with that issue. He's holding out and how that works. I mean, they drafted rookies, but still rookies. It's just it's a lot of hit or miss. They added a lot of okay players last year, and they played well as a unit. So now, how's that go moving forward? It's not you're relying a lot on Burrow and Chase and Higgins, and then they don't not dominant in the run game like they could be. I think Mixon's a talented player, but they're not dominant in any aspect of the game. When you're relying on a lot of jump balls and 50-50 type plays, that can break either way sometimes, you know. And then with that being said, they could have been knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Raiders had them. I'm sorry, Raiders. Yeah, Raiders had them. Titans had them, you know, and they got away. Chiefs had them, you know, like so. It could have easily have been not making the playoffs. It could have easily have been one and done. Or, you know, they could have been out at any point. So that's my issues with them. And again, just teams figuring Burrow out. You know, just not even. And again, figuring someone out doesn't mean he's going to go 10 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. This means some of the play here or there doesn't go his way because they're able to bluff him. They're actually to read some of the things he does, which are, you know, he's a gambler. He gambles at times, and that can catch up to you. And then with the Rams and the loss of OBJ is major to me. I mean, Robinson's going to step up, and I think he'll have a great season. But when they figured out how to get away from Kupp and use them both, that's when that offense took off. And then, I mean, to be honest, Stafford's hit or miss. Stafford's up and down. Like I've always thought he was super talented, but even seeing him with that team, he had some really rough games where it was like his fault they lost. You know, games he lost early, like, you know what I mean? First, second quarter, he threw a couple picks and they were down. You know what I mean? And again, it's a top heavy roster. You know, you lost Von Miller, so the D line isn't dominant. You're hoping for Leonard Floyd to continue to play well, but he really played better after you got the help on the other side. Aaron Donald's probably the best player in the league, so that is what that is. The linebackers are, you know, young or younger. I actually added Bobby Wagner, but still it's not the same Bobby Wagner. You know, and then it's Ramsey and a bunch of okay guys. You know, a bunch of young guys who do their role, but it's not a dominant unit. You know, it's depending on Ramsey and Donald, really. You know, and, you know, like you said, they're hoping Wagner does that. But, again, the Rams they could have been, again, they could have lost the NFC Championship game, you know, and they almost blew the Bucs game. Like, it's just a team that had some really bad losses last year also. And again, I don't know, we'll see what Stafford really is, because as much as I think I like talent, there are times where he just doesn't play good football.
Yeah, I think off top with the Bengals, has nothing to do with them as a team. Honestly, is why I feel like they're going to have a hangover. Bro, their conference got exponentially better since they went to the Super Bowl that they didn't win. I think it stops right there. The imports, all the imported NFC talent that came over that way on both sides of the ball, and that's not even counting the drafted players.
Right.
Like, a lot of teams loaded up. So, like, and you mentioned, there's a couple teams that they either beat or didn't make the playoffs last year that roster for roster, are better than the Bengals. And that's not a knock on Cincinnati. When a team makes a run, they make a run. All credit to the team that makes the run. But we're talking about the next year. What's happened since then? Some of them teams that you didn't have to worry about last year that might have been bad matchups for you that weren't in the postseason, they're waiting to see you this year. They want to make sure that there's a collision course on your, you know, as you try to get back to where you were. There was no Baltimore really to be in your way last year. The Raiders, just already with what they added, we're talking about, they had two of the best players in the league at their respective positions on both sides of the ball. I know everyone talks about Devontae so much. Man, they got Chandler Jones opposite Max Crosby. I don't know if everybody knows because people don't talk about him that much. Chandler, anytime you talk about best pass rushers in this league, if you leave him out, I can't take your list seriously. That's how good Chandler Jones is. And it's not his job to market himself. It's 2022. We all have computers in our pockets. You just conveniently look over his name when you're trying to find your favorite edge rusher. They're either below or sometimes they might be above him, but his name's there. And that's huge. You want to talk about a team having bookends to come after quarterbacks? Yeah, those are two very, 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 like, those are two upper echelon ends. Like, I think Max Crosby is very good. However, like, there's levels, man. Chandler Jones is Chandler Jones. And you pair them together, do you know how much better Max Crosby's going to be? Because he's going to be the second person you worry about when you play the Raiders. Simply off that line's going to shift to wherever Chandler is. And you're giving a very productive, a very good player one-on-ones. And this isn't a complimentary player. This is somebody who was their guy at edge. We see how the Chargers have been stacking up. They've been trying to load up, and so they can sustain anything and make a run, right? And like you said with the Bengals, with both of the teams, consistency is huge for them. And they're both teams that are so up and down. And I guess the reason why I'm probably more comfortable with the Rams not having a hangover, like at least making the playoffs, I like Zach Taylor. Probably trust McVay more. I do like Zach Taylor, but I trust McVay more. I think I've seen it much more. I trust in what they do. And, yeah, Stafford, that's the other thing with him, too. Like, it wasn't all wonderful last year. A lot of times he did come through and make big plays. And he's not asked to do as much as Burrow because of the situation he's in. But it might have to be that. And again, so much of it, like so much of the Rams this year, it depends on somebody on the other side of their career. Just like you talk about Wags, right? And the good part for the Rams and Wags, he doesn't have to be Wags that was in Seattle at any point. Like that's the blessing. No disrespect to the LOB teams or what have you. Aaron Donald never played in front of you, sir. You don't have to be that. Like, you don't have to be that. What you were, which was, you were literally almost responsible for taking away the middle of the field. But you did a great job. It's what made you so special. What's going to make you a Hall of Famer. You don't have to be that here. But what they do need you to be is not as bad at the... Just you being there will make their second level better. And we know their second level is what teams attack on a regular basis. So, like, even on paper right now, what does it look like? They have a special player that's been in the league for quite a while on each level. You got it's Aaron, Wags, Ramsey. Obviously, the other players have to step in and do their part, but I think you could do far worse than having 3 special impact players on each level, regardless of where they are in their career. And then, I guess maybe I'm like I said, I'm all the way out on, like, I'm super sold on the island that Allen Robinson is going to change their offense. So that's the other reason I'm comfortable. And last but not least, like, we just talked about everybody going to the AFC, right? What did that leave in the NFC? They're in the NFC. They're in the NFC.
Yeah, good point. Also, I think going into, when we talk about, like, how much Akers struggled in the playoffs this year, that was him coming back from the injury. I feel like going into that, coming off the season prior, when they made the playoffs and they had John Wolford playing quarterback, I think they upset Seattle. Like, that little playoff run they had, that was based off Akers. I think they came into last season expecting to put more on his plate. I think they expected to run that offense through him, and then him getting hurt before the season. So, like, even him coming back, he came back in a record time. So I'm not going to judge him off struggling in the playoffs, not being himself in the playoffs, because he came back in 5 or 6 months from an injury that guys used to take a year and change to come back from. So I still want to see what they try to do with the run game with him. Losing Whitworth is going to hurt, But again, I think I can see McVay, the creativity he has in the pass game and the run game. I think there's stuff that he wants to do with Akers that I just want to see. I just want to see that Akers had good flash the year prior. I'm not going to judge him off that one playoff run.
No, for sure, because he was pre-injury. He was ascending. Like, you're starting to see why they were so excited, and it changed it changed their offense a little bit. Like, he was trending to what on a lesser level to what Mixon brings to Cincinnati's offense. Can you imagine what Cincinnati's offense is without the explosive element that's Joe Mixon? And that's like the Rams need it because they're not a ground and pound type run team. Like, they know they need to run the ball, but somebody to keep an eye on, I think, over there is young boy from Notre Dame, Kyron Williams. Not super flashy, but they don't need you to be super flashy over there. They just need somebody consistently who can get yards in the run game so they can do all their other stuff. And that's what hurts them. Like, they get in trouble usually when teams are able to take the run game away from them completely. Hey, look, man, their whole defense is looking at Matt, and there's only so many, you're looking at Matt, Cooper, and guys like, hey, make something work. And that's what gives them trouble. And that's when you have the ups and downs. They're not always able to stay on schedule all the time because their run game's up and down. But yeah, I think it's gonna be much tougher for the Bengals. AFC is no longer sweet. The AFC you went through last year, that's gone. It's gone. Even the teams you beat in the playoffs last year, they're not the same. So, while you kind of sort of mostly are. So, we'll see. I think the last thing you had on here was breakout second-year players. Rumor has it you have a list.
I'll be quick. I'll be quicker this time. But I had Brevin Jordan from the Texans. I think he's gonna have a really good season this year. Just because they're just gonna be a better team. They built some confidence towards the end. Cooks is gonna be the go-to guy, and I think as a check down guy, and as Mills being someone that actually goes through his reads, Jordan could be a nice part as like a H-back slot receiver type thing, and from the tight end position obviously, but he's not a big tight end. I think he'll do well. He'll break out. I think Kwity Paye from Indianapolis. Again, he had okay year last year, but he's allowing a bit. I think they traded for Ngakoue, which allows him to be more of what he was in college. Not so much. He's not an off the edge speed in this guy. He's actually hand usage like a base. He's more of a base end than the actual pass rushing end, but he can win. So I think that'll help just having another end to help him out. Not to mention having Buckner inside, things like that. But I think just another year of making better. Caleb Farley, being healthy. I think if he's healthy, that takes that defense to another level because they're already a solid defense. They're just a tough team, but adding a guy who can legit run with number one receivers and make plays, that changes everything for them.
No, I was just gonna say, like, if Caleb's what he can be, that gives them so much room for error while they try to get right on offense.
Right.
And that means their defense takes a step, like a step. That's all I had to add there because, my God, it's Caleb Farley, man.
Yeah. I think just stay healthy. Just stay healthy. Then we got Joe Tryon from Tampa. He's going to replace Jason Pierre-Paul, but in his little time he got in, he showed his ability as a pass rusher. So I think he could be a step up because Pierre-Paul was getting older anyway. So it'll be interesting to watch. Then some second, third round, later round guys. You got Terrace Marshall from the Panthers. Now we'll see with Baker throwing the ball, but again, this is a talented guy, bigger, good size and moves well, and actually can catch the ball well. So just to get his confidence and get out there and play, I think he can add to DJ Moore, and I think Robbie Anderson he can add to that. Marco Wilson from Arizona, again not a big name guy, but you figure he got picked later in the draft and they're basically your cornerback one. That's a lot to ask, and he had some ups and downs. The thing with that position is you can see him on a highlight getting beat. Like you saw him fighting too. He competed, and he's only going to get better. And even in college, you could tell he had coverage ability. That was one of the things we talked about for the draft, was just how well he covered. And now it's just consistently making plays on the ball. But again, even if he's not your number one, if he falls into a number two role, you get somebody else. That's a win for them because they picked him in I think maybe fifth round, maybe sixth round. So that helps. And then Trey Brown from Seattle. I know Pete Carroll seems to love him, and they're like. They got big fans going up his whether it's think of the slot.
He can cover. He can cover.
Right. That's a guy that could definitely help them. And then the last three, I just had a couple teams. I'll speak for the Cowboys. For them to make a jump this year, they're highly dependent on Kelvin Joseph, Jabril Cox, and then Biggie Zoo. I think Biggie Zoo is already put in as a starter right now as defensive tackle, which they've struggled with the run game and just being consistent in that they haven't had dominant tackle play for a while since I don't want to say Leon left, but it's been a while, And then Kelvin Joseph, if he's able, like we talked about the other day, if he's able to go opposite Diggs, that just solidifies that defense. Just it's security. Having a
Yeah.
spot where we know this is okay. It doesn't gotta be hit or miss. It's gonna be big play, but it's okay. And then Jabril Cox, if he's able to contribute to play linebacker and really play the way he played in college, the way we saw before he got injured, that allows Michael Parsons to be the chess piece that he really is. And like we saw yesterday, we saw him beat both tackles off the edge in practice. But if that allows him to just be anywhere, that covers for a lot of deficiencies in that defense. Now you're not like, well, we don't have a defensive end. Like you can really just put Michael Parsons anywhere and just rush from here. Stand here. Like it just takes that defense to another level. Then I had a Lions combination of Anuzarike and Elaine McNeil, the two tackles, which they added ends, they added Hutchinson on the outside, but for a team that's trying to be physical, they drafted these two guys last year. You throw them at D tackle. If they can hold them, no, again, not sacks, just push the pocket and sustain against the run. That allows them to get after it like they want to. That's a physical team, but if you get bullied inside, that really cuts into that. So those two play a big part in that, and the jump they hope to make. And then a reach would be my man Melifonwu. And they moved him to safety this year, so I'm interested to see how that works out. So I could see him being a tight end stopper. He's a tall guy, and they signed. They re-signed Tracy Walker, and I think they signed safety from the Ravens. But again, being able to have a guy who can put on tight ends and can actually match up against some of the bigger receivers too is just a weapon, because you don't know what's going on with Okudah and what's the other corner. So I think they're solid at corner, but if Melifonwu's ability to jump around and again being a tight end stopper is big, a guy who can actually cover guys like Kittle or guys like that, I think comes in handy. And then the last but at least had the 49ers class. Let's see that.
From last year?
Yeah, I'm saying that they're
Oh yeah, nah. Hey, look, man. Almost the first half of that class starters. Yeah, like they were. I think we talked a little about it yesterday, or the day before, what have you. Yeah, almost all of them are being ushered into critical roles, whether it's being a flat out starter of their position or being part of that position's rotation. Everyone's like, oh, they took Aaron Banks in the second round and he didn't play last year. Well, guess what? Left guard's his until they have to move him out of it. That's clearly looks like that was the plan, and that's what it is. And it is what it is at this point. Avery Thomas, part of that cornerback room, is part of the rotation. I don't expect him to be a starter outside. I do expect you to be somebody where you played a little bit last year, get better, so in case anything happens, there's not a big drop off. Or still get better to when you play teams and you might have to be a dime a little bit more. Give your defense coordinator more tools in his bag, but you need to be part of it, right? Both running backs. I know everybody went crazy about the job Elijah Mitchell did last year, and I appreciate him dearly for it. That's not what he did last year was not what they drafted him to do, at least to me. I think getting a chance to see Sermon going to play a role. Like, there is no RB1 there. So, I don't care about all that. But, yeah, you're going to be asked to play roles. Talanoa Funga. I'm waiting to see how it is because it's hard for me to block out, what I saw the safety pairing as. And clearly you can't do you're not the same player as your predecessor. So, clearly something's changing. So, I'm anxious to see why they feel so comfortable, why they're so excited, and how the scheme changes around you and how that helps their defense, right? But you're asked to start. Cool. Was there anybody else in that class?
The quarterback.
Oh, yeah, my bad, Trey. Yeah, expect him to, I don't know, be the guy that they traded all those picks for, which, to me, I don't think it's hard. And appreciate Jimmy for everything that he did because, that organization was going through a time where, like post-Colin, was kind of bad quarterback-wise. They were going through it. So kudos of him come along, inject some life into that position for an organization that was just out there flailing around for a little bit. I think it goes without saying that the ACL injury probably had a lot to do with why I think we're even here at this place right now. There could be an alternate universe where, you know, he doesn't get hurt, then maybe things change. You know what I'm saying, in terms of his play and everything else like that. But clearly, we never saw the 2017 version of him ever again. And who he is right now is why he's, you know, why the move was made. And for Trey, I don't think they're gonna ask you to do anything too major. No, everybody's trying to figure out, like, or some people saying, like, man, the bar is high, the winning. Look, man, the roster's a roster. They've added to the roster. You just gotta. I think Debo said it last year best. Like, you just gotta be you, and that's all they want you to be. Like, just be you. Execute the play when it's not there. You know, do the stuff that makes sense to you. Go make a play. You know, you don't like what you see. Change said play. Make good decisions. And that's it. Like, he's kind of like, for somebody who's that talented, he's super risk averse. So I think it's fine. Like, I don't think there's too much thinking that needs to go into it. I don't think he's going to set the world on fire this year, nor does he have to. I know last year, just in the limited snaps, it changed. I think Brandon, I used to something yesterday. Just him being under center changes how defenses have to guard them, which is more than enough for a team that runs a lot. So think about it. Everybody knows, you know, most of the stuff that happened with them was underneath and in the middle of the field. Now imagine if the safeties can't come up. When they snap the ball, you got to take your butt back. If somebody runs an out-breaking route, you have to honor it. If somebody runs a go, you need to follow said person. The ball could get there. And think about just the threat of that, the fact that you have to play a little bit more honest or closer to 11-11, the threat of him leaving and the threat of him using his legs changes a lot. So, I mean, he has the biggest part of all those second-year players there, but I still think, like, I don't think it's as big as everybody thinks. Like, the bar is not real high. Like, for the most part, that offense, we haven't seen that man's offense been run correctly since he's been there. He's had to adjust and tailor it down and all this other different stuff. So, it is what it is. But some guys I know I was looking forward to this year, second-year guys. Go ahead. What are you about to say? My bad.
No, I was just going to say the last one I just thought of, like, to make sure I put him in, was Rashad Bateman. He plays a huge part in what they plan on doing this year. If they're going to have success, it's going to be him. Because all that blitzing, and they're basically saying he's the number one receiver. They didn't go at anybody. It's on him. And him and the tight end, obviously.
Did what's it called get drafted the same year as him? Duvernay?
I think they're both in the same year, yeah.
They're both in the same class, right? So go ahead and put them together, both of them. Yeah.
That's going to decide their season, pretty much.
Yep.
You know, like, if they can win.
And I think they can, too. And honestly, like, obviously, look, man, it's been a couple days of camp for everybody, so I'm not about to go nuts about anything. I don't think anybody's had pads on or what have you. But just the fact that they give them something they haven't had before goes a long way. You know, Bateman wins, like, he can win on all three levels, but it's not like, it's not some big explosive thing like, oh my God, he left the dude, you know, he got to step on him, it's over. No, it's not that, but he can win. Now, Devin Duvernay was so intriguing to me when they took him because it was like, he got all the stuff Hollywood could do except he's built like a running back a little bit. Like, It's a different body type. So you don't lose the speed. That's another guy that was a kicker, punt returner, or whatever in college. So, you know, we always talk about the guys they're a little extra fearless. You don't care about your life to be returning punts or kicks. Like, the filter that would be like, no, I shouldn't be doing this, it's not there. So think about that for them, right? And like you said, that totally changes everything because that could even help you with the scheme limitations to a degree. If you guys win, it just doesn't matter. If we don't think it's the most beautifully schemed play from a passing standpoint, it just really, truly it doesn't matter at all. Some other guys that I'm just looking forward to this year. Look, man, you brought up Caleb, so, you know, I got to bring up Pat. I want to see Pat this year. Another year of Patrick Surtain. I'm interested I want to see a healthy year of J.C. Horn because I feel like he started the year well before he got hurt. And we never, you know, we got robbed of seeing him. And then I think I'm interested in seeing year two of the quarterbacks who didn't do it last year. Does he kiss a lot? Shit. All but Zach's the only one coming back to the same coaching staff. Because Trevor and Justin, it's round 2 of new regimes in year 2, which is huge. So I'm interested to see how the changes help both of those guys. I'm trying to think of who else. The Bears got quite a few second-year guys that they need to pan out. Other guys are just obvious. I know you mentioned your boy Michael already. I'm interested to see year 2 for Greg Newsome in Cleveland. He was fun last year. You brought up Terrace. Look, you brought up Terrace Marshall already too. Like, man.
You know what, Kadarius? I want to see Kadarius Toney. I don't know why. I use him. I could be changing on him just because I think he gets the right staff. He only views him as a football player. You know what I mean? And doesn't try to make him into wide receiver 1. Let him get the ball however you want to get it to him, because that's the key, getting his hands. He's a running back. And just get the ball in his hands and let him play. I think that's interesting to see if they're able to do that with him. And he showed some ability. I know he destroyed Diggs last year. He had a big game. And again, he got injured. He never really got going. So, if he can get along with his staff and, they find different ways to get him, it's just interesting to see how he does.
Not for sure. Him and this guy, it's kind of similar to Baltimore a little bit, where you're depending on 2 young guys on a perimeter, kind of just make to win enough to help your offense really not only move but like really be a little bit more potent. You mentioned Kadarius, man. I'm gonna say Wandale too. Like, you need both of those guys because if you just look at what they have on the perimeter, those are the only 2 things you see that are like where we could just be like, hey, they're explosive. Period. Right. That's it. There's nothing else explosive over there, but those 2 and Saquon. That's it. We get another year of Trayvon Moore again for the Raiders.
Yeah. He had a good year last year too. He had a really good year, and I think he's only going to get better. And then adding the talent they added around it, whether it's pass rush and upgrading at corner, just allows him to be the center fielder that he is, the playmaker that he has. So I think that's always going to make it better.
All right, T-Roy, what's going on, man? Appreciate you in the comment section. Said pray for my guy Justin Fields. He's throwing the Mooney, Komet, a couple ball boys on Sundays. Oh man, let's go ahead.
Yeah, right?
Look at their.
They drafted Velvet Jones.
Hey man, y'all gonna stop going on my man. I like him. I think he's gonna be fine. Like, y'all gotta leave him alone. It's Velus Jones, sir. Y'all are so rude, man. Look, man, it's just as simple as the scheme is a little bit better than what if the adults, I'm talking about the coaching staff, is truly better than the last one, they'll be fine, man. They'll be okay. There's no big, fun, flashy names. I get it, but they'll be all right, man. Like, they don't have the explosive issue that we were just talking about with, like, the Giants or the Ravens. Like, they're not big names, but all those guys are almost dumb explosive in some shape, fashion, or form. Which to me, again, if you're not going to have the big name dude, at least give me a bunch of guys who can put stress on the opposing defense once they get the ball in their hands. Like, at least give me that. So, the other thing is, I'm fine with the faith I have in Justin. Like, you're not going to be so good this year where you won't be able to go get a blue chip wide receiver next year to be wide receiver 1. But,
I think they play a big part for them is going to be Evan Zinkel from last year.
Oh yeah.
And he's going to have to find. I think they had him plan to play left tackle, not sure if he's going to end up at right tackle. But that's a big part because I think they had Jason Peters playing tackle last year. So if they can get him protected, because there's a lot of with what they have. I'm assuming the smaller receivers are going to get a lot of crossing routes and things like that. Because you got Mooney's a talented guy. I don't think he's the number 1, but for what they're trying to do, there are things that he's a playmaker. And he can win on specific routes, but it's not going to be the more developed. These aren't high level route runners yet. So I think instead you get them running across the field with aggressive arms, you got a chance to some points.
All right, so in that group, you got my man that you was already making fun of, Velus Jones Jr., Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle from KC, Equanimous St. Brown, N'Keal Harry's there, Daz Newsome, Taji Sharp, Dante Pettis, David Moore. Like, they just got a bunch of guys, man. Something has to shake out of that group. Out of all those guys right now, the guys we know for sure, you know what Darnell Mooney is, and I think we know what Byron Pringle is. I don't think Byron Pringle is super special, but back to that conversation I think we had yesterday, at least you know he's a pro. He's been in the league for a while. He's still here.
And they wouldn't got him.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they wouldn't pay him some money. And then same with, remember we talked about St. Brown was, yes, the new offensive coordinators from there. From
Yep.
there. So there's a reason they went and got him also. So, again, he's probably the only one that has, besides, Pringle's thicker, but I think St. Brown, he's probably like 6'4", I believe. So just it trying to kind of rounds the group out. Mooney's a little smaller, and so is the rookie. So I think it tries to put a system together. It doesn't have to be these high-level names, but I think they probably see something that they're doing. For them not to jump at receiver tells you that they had some type of confidence in what they had, I would think.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to do is, like you said, the offensive coordinator came from Green Bay, right? Now let's think about them systems. If you look at their wide receiving core, they don't have the wide receiver one at all, but they have pieces that fit in those offenses. And some of those players that we named have the skill sets that we've seen in different places that run this like offshoots of this offense, right? It's just they don't have, none of them are on the high end level. That's what we know for sure. But we'll see. He also said I didn't mind the Eberflus hire either. Bears probably a year away though. Oh, for sure, they got some time. It's just about getting better. Like, honestly, this year is about getting Justin comfortable. Right. If you can get Justin comfortable, man, he can make things work with whatever he has to throw to. But it's about making him comfortable. Because he wasn't really ever comfortable last year. Like, we saw him in glimpses. He stressed the Niners defense out last year for a while.
Right.
I've seen better quarterbacks struggle with that defense. So
yeah, also with the hiring, that Indianapolis team is kind of been carried by that defense for a few years. They haven't had much weapons on offense either besides running game and the defense, and this guy's been running it. And the talent over here isn't efficient. You know what I mean? Again, one of the things I know a lot of Bears fans are upset about the draft picks, but you took the best part of the board twice in the second. So I know you wanted a receiver in the second round, but you took two players that could have went in the first round, which is, with the corner and the safety. So, I mean, you could have reached for a receiver who may or may not be good. It wasn't like the receivers went off the board early and made the big guy. So to sit there and say that, you should have just took a receiver for the sake of taking a receiver, or just adding two players that could start and add to what you already have. You already have, again, not to get into too much, you already have Eddie Jackson, and you have Jalen Johnson, but you put a corner and a safety next to them who could or should start day one. You know what I mean? As opposed to adding a receiver who may not even see the field. And again, that adds to being a year away. Who's to say who's a free agent next year who you can trade for, or a guy you can trade for who's disgruntled, or just a straight free agent, or you draft it. Instead of just reaching for them. So I think they're on the right path.
Oh, for sure. Like, bro, and most of the teams that run what they run offensively, for the most part, if you look at what they're, like what you said, what they're complemented with, the thing that separates those teams are the ones that are paired with a great defense and run game. So the Bears took care of that part first, which I think was the smart thing to do. And you got to think about it. Some of those teams, when they were in the process of being constructed, all of them didn't get to start with somebody as talented as Justin. Like the Super Bowl winners, they didn't start with somebody as nice as Justin. That was with they went through their Jared Goff days. You guys get to start with you get to start with a blue chipper under center, and if he gets comfortable, that can buy you some time until you get the pass catchers you want, and it's kind of like process of elimination and team building. So if you get your quarterback comfortable, you fix the O-line, you fix the defense. Bro, the way wide receivers are coming out this year, I like at this time, man, either drafting them or wait until one hits the contract. Go throw your assets together. Go get go get them via the AJ Brown way. Marquise Brown got flipped. I don't know Marquise Brown isn't AJ Brown, but I'm just saying there's multiple avenues in which to go acquire top-notch pass catchers.
Right.
That
you throw a number one on top of that group. Now it looks legit. You know what I mean? You bump Mooney down to a 2. You bump Jones to a 3. You got Pringle as a 3. Whatever. Like you slide everyone down a spot. That's a legit receiving court. You don't put a number 1 there with him. And then running backs are solid. I like David Montgomery, and he runs hard. He's a catch a little bit, and then and Khalil Herbert. Like that's not a bad combination right there. So again, it's just tightening a few things up and seeing what you got with some of these guys. You know, maybe Mooney takes off, and now you see where he stands, or Jones steps up, or Pringle. Like you don't know, just to see who's comfortable with the field and who's going to stay. You know, it doesn't mean everybody's here for the long run, but now you'll see. Okay, do we need to add a receiver? Now you take off with a new receiver, or we need to add another offensive lineman. Whatever the case may be, I think just going forward with what they have and adding guys who are going to be there for the future. You couldn't take a receiver that was burnt out in a year, but just again knowing you're a year away and just adding talent, and then when it comes time to make that move, make the right move.
Yeah, and I look at the Equanimeous signing here, and I know Jesse, you heard me say this before. Like, I think that's one of those things where it's kind of like on a lesser scale. It's kind of like what the Chiefs did with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, you know what you have physically. Maybe I can get the rest of it out of there. Like, I know there's something in there. Maybe I can unlock the rest of it. And who knows? Dude's 25 years old, man. Like, for all we know, maybe he just needed opportunity to step in and be the guy to unlock it. And again, like you talk about, otherwise, why would the coach go get him? Usually when coaches start over somewhere, they get somewhere, they go get established vets to come in and help and teach and all that other stuff. Dude's 25. Right. It'd be hard pressed for me to be like, oh man, he went to go get Equanimeous St. Brown so he could help teach the offense at 25 years old. Nah, right. You went to go. Some people are on the way out. You were like, I'm taking this. When you left, you took something with you. That's right. That's awesome.
I think knowing where he came from, I think it's particularly, that was a win now too. Okay, They're practicing. He probably spent a lot of time with St. Brown because at one point, St. Brown, Lazard, and MVS were all kind of in that same spot. St. Brown actually, you'd see him on the field early on in his career. So it was like maybe it was just some things that need to be tightened up. And with Aaron, you get in the game and mess up a route, you're off. You know what I mean? Like, it's not you leave me hanging. I try to go to throw a pass, and type of quarterback in years.
You're not coming back.
Yeah. So now it's like, okay, don't play him anymore. He barely trusts the other two guys. A lot of plays that were left on the field because he went to Adam. So again, the coach could easily have been working with him and seeing something in him, but just Aaron wasn't having him on the field.
And the other thing is, if that is what it is, we're gonna find out very quickly that it wasn't a talent or a him issue. The other thing T-Roy said was Fields definitely can ball when he's comfortable. Gave my Spartan the blues, cut off the TV. But it's always good show, fellas. Hey, look, man, appreciate you not only tuning in, but commenting. We appreciate that part. Definitely with y'all to join the conversation, engage in the conversation, whatnot with us. Truly appreciate that. But Justin, if you have nothing else, man, well, thank y'all. Yeah, that's about it. Look, we about to get it right under an hour today. Look, I think we getting this down to a science. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. We'll see y'all tomorrow morning. As always, y'all enjoy the rest of your day. We'll catch you tomorrow morning for Mornings with the Focus.